It's been 2 weeks since Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom hit theaters, and since then I've seen the movie 3 times. And after those multiple viewings, my opinion of the movie has not changed, and my score of 79% still stands. I had a blast with this movie, so much so that it could wind up in my best of 2018 list. I'm not guaranteeing it, but seeing how some movies from last year that I gave similar ratings to made it into my best of the year list, Fallen Kingdom very well could, unless the rest of the year is just pure gold. So in this video, I'll be going into detail about what enthralled me about the movie, as well as its shortcomings and what is promised for Jurassic Park 6. Also, in the last 2 weeks, it's become apparent that this is one of the most divisive films this year. And while every opinion deserves to be respected, there have been a lot of criticisms with this movie that I feel don't hold water. So while I'm at it, I'll be going over a few of those criticisms and offering refutations to them. I'll start off with one thing highly debated about this movie, the debate in the movie. Some reviewers said they couldn't get on board with the story because it follows characters who are in favor of saving the dinosaurs and are against what Dr. Ian Malcolm is saying, that the dinosaurs should be just left to die. So how can they be expected to care about these characters when they've always agreed with Malcolm? I think they've really missed the point. What we've agreed with Malcolm on is that making Jurassic Park was a mistake. But that's not what we're talking about now. Because Jurassic Park did happen, it's a different topic. Should they be accountable for the life they created, or let it all be erased and forgotten about as Malcolm now suggests they should? This is something I really liked about Fallen Kingdom. It took the series in a different direction by bringing forward this new set of ethical questions. And even if you do still side with Malcolm in this case too, you still don't want to see the dinosaurs die because we've loved seeing them since the franchise started. Another thing that has had some reviewers scratching their heads is why the Dinosaur Protection Group doesn't just take the dinosaurs to Isla Sorna, the island known as Site B from the second and third movies. Sorna is even mentioned in this movie, so why does no one bring up the possibility of transporting them there? Here's why. It's stated in the movie that Isla Nublar is privately owned, and we know from the last movie that the owner is Masrani Global. It stands to reason that they also own Isla Sorna. In fact, I know that they do because I followed the movie's viral marketing campaign, which was the Dinosaur Protection Group website and social media. Masrani Global is an opponent of the DPG, which is why Lockwood proposed bringing the dinosaurs to an island that he owns. Furthermore, in The Lost World, we learned that the power plant on Isla Sorna ran on geothermal energy, meaning that Sorna is also volcanic. It wouldn't be worth the risk taking the dinosaurs to another island like that. So I was enthralled by the story, and for the first half of the movie, I loved every moment of it. It was perfectly paced. It started out with the scariest T-Rex attack since the camp scene from The Lost World, and the escape from the island as it was blowing up was incredibly exciting. And something about the way Claire shouts, "It was all a lie," overlapped with the volcanic tremor. The sound of it gave me chills all 3 times I watched it. Another nitpick worth refuting is that Claire drives the truck off of the dock and lands on the ship just as it's leaving, and none of the mercenaries see it happening. Obviously some of them would have seen it, but they probably just took no notice. Some of the other mercenaries were scrambling onto the ship with their vehicles as the dock was getting bombarded with molten rock. And even if some of them did take notice, Owen and Franklin were in the rear carrier, while Claire put on the hat as a disguise. And then we get to that moment that was absolutely heartbreaking. It was bad enough seeing the close-up of the JP logo on the old Explorer from the first movie as it was getting incinerated by the lava, but this one moment though. In the months before the movie's release, I knew it was coming and I knew it was going to be rough when the team leaves the island as the land is just scorched with no life left on it, but I was not expecting the way it was executed. Claire, Owen, and Franklin watch as a Brachiosaurus stands on shore drowning in the ash, trying to hoist itself up above the fire and smoke. To see the first dinosaur to enchant us all those years back, getting on its back legs again while being engulfed in flames, and to hear it letting out those sad cries for help, I was an emotional wreck. I don't think they could have come up with a more fittingly tragic send-off to the park. The only thing I was questioning when seeing the marketing is when Eli Mills' team brings the dinosaurs to the mainland and they're auctioning them off on the black market. I knew this is a thing that happens with endangered animals, but I wondered, how are the buyers going to manage a dinosaur? It does make more sense when you see the movie, because it's not simply rich people attending. Most of the people there are either advanced geneticists or military people who more than likely have the technology needed to handle the dinosaurs. Or at least so they think. And during this scene, we see more of how J.A. Bayona utilizes his directing prowess. While the auctioneer is selling the dinosaurs, Claire and Owen break out of their cell by using the Stiggy Moloch. The auctioneer hitting the gavel is used almost like a ticking clock, and it's intercut with the Stiggy Moloch ramming its head into the brick wall. That was some clever editing. So this leads to the Indoraptor getting out, and Owen and Claire, along with Blue, having to hunt and take it down. And while this section of the movie is filled with scary imagery and is incredibly filmed, it's still just kind of there to draw the movie out to 2 hours. It just happens, it's over, and then the movie gets back to the point. As a matter of fact, it wouldn't have even happened had it not been for a simple, dumb decision made by Ken Wheatley to step into the cage and pick the Indoraptor's tooth off. However, I do like how they use the creation of the Indoraptor as a biblical metaphor for man playing God, and that they do the reverse of what God did, making the Indoraptor a male out of a rib taken from the remains of the Indominus Rex, a female. Although another complaint from some people is that when the Indoraptor is faking unconsciousness and messing around with Wheatley, it appears to be smiling as it opens its eyes. I don't think it actually smiles. When we know what an animal is thinking, sometimes we can naturally perceive little facial movements or vocal patterns as anthropomorphic expressions. Another example, watch this scene from the first movie. Doesn't it kind of sound like the raptor is letting out evil laughter? I'm sure it's not really, so I just see the Indoraptor appearing to grin as about the same thing. Something that is a lapse of logic is when the auctioneer runs into the elevator to hide from the Indoraptor, and there are already 3 buyers in there shivering. So they would have been hiding from the Stiggy Moloch when it was throwing people around, but when it was gone, why didn't they just leave? I guess they were just too scared to walk around the Indoraptor even while it was still in its cage. And caught up in the fray is Macy, said to be Lockwood's granddaughter. I knew something unusual was up with her, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. From the part where she scares the housekeeper, who says in response, "You're not some wild animal," and from when Macy pauses when she overhears Dr. Wu saying that the Indoraptor needs a mother, I was half expecting to find out that Macy was 1% raptor or something insane like that. But instead, it's revealed that Macy is not Lockwood's granddaughter, but is in fact a clone of his actual daughter. Not only does this introduce a new element into the series, the idea of taking advantage of the technology to recreate life other than extinct animals, but it's also the reason why Lockwood and John Hammond broke up their partnership. John Hammond was against the idea of cloning humans. With that knowledge, I see this scene from the original with new eyes. Hammond was against human cloning, so he tried to keep the idea from being universalized by using it as a joke in his tour video. And immediately after we get shocked by the reveal of who Macy really is, the Indoraptor suddenly charges by and just seizes 2 guys at once, taking us completely off guard. Horror movies nowadays need to take notes. This is the kind of jump scare that works, when it's the last thing that we're thinking about, not when there's a prolonged build-up to it, and we're just sitting there thinking, stop trying to keep us in suspense, we know it's coming, and half the time it's a false jump scare. The only part of the Indoraptor chase I disliked was when Macy climbs into the dumbwaiter to get away from it, and she has trouble closing the door, the exact same way that Lex in the first movie had trouble closing the door to the cupboard to hide from the Velociraptor. I recognized the similarity right away, and it just took away the suspense for a moment, because I knew exactly what was going to happen. Macy closes the door in the nick of time, and the Indoraptor bonks its head. Most of the other callbacks in this movie I thought were fine, but this one instance was too desperate. There are 2 frightening images in this movie that are going to stay with me. The first is one both scary and symbolic when the lights come back on, and Macy is facing the glass with the Indoraptor standing on the other side, and the shot has the reflection of her face lined up with that of the Indoraptor. It just looks so freaky and surreal. And the absolute scariest shot in this movie is when the Indoraptor creeps into Macy's bedroom, and its shadow on the wall almost looks like the shadow of the rocking horse, but then said shadow slowly opens its mouth bearing sharp teeth. How many times as a kid had you been lying in bed having nightmares or visions of a normal shadow on your wall morphing into something else? The whole sequence is something out of a child's nightmare, and I really like how Jay Bayona took ways that dinosaurs both fascinated and frightened us as kids and brought that to the screen in this movie. One small thing I'd like to mention is how the demise of the Indoraptor was pretty cool, how it falls through the glass ceiling and gets impaled on the horns of the Triceratops skull below. But I was so hoping that the Indoraptor would die by exploding somehow. You see, one day before I saw the movie, I had a can of cherry Dr. Pepper stored in a refrigerator that had a section of it used for freezing, and I put the can too close to the freezing part. So not long after, I discovered that when a soda can freezes, it blows up. The cherry Dr. Pepper cans right now have the Indoraptor printed on them, so I was just thinking it'd be so ironic if the Indoraptor exploded in the movie. Man, Jurassic Park, I was hoping you were a franchise that was so good at foreshadowing that you could transcend the boundaries of cinema and use reality to do so. But darn it, you're not quite as awesome as that. So then the movie gets back to its main point regarding what to do with the dinosaurs, when a hydrogen cyanide leak threatens the lives of the dinosaurs that haven't been sold or shipped off yet. Claire is ready to push the red button that will open the door and set them free, but in doing so, it could bring unfathomable peril to mankind. But even when the fate of her mission is right there in her hands, she can't bring herself to do it. The one who does? Macy, because she has a unique connection with these creatures. It doesn't just come from her love for dinosaurs, but also from the fact that, like them, she's an unnatural creation. And this brings me to the last criticism I want to go over, why nobody is trying to stop Macy as she releases the dinosaurs. To anyone who questions this, I have to ask, did you see what happened just a few seconds earlier? It's obvious that everyone present, especially Claire, are in deep conflict over whether or not to let them go free, because they had no idea that their mission was going to come to this. Even after Claire closes the hatch to the button, it's highly conceivable that she's still contemplating if she made the right decision. So of course when Macy presses it, they're going to just stand there. I already had a feeling the ending would contain this kind of emotional conflict before I saw the movie. The way that I had envisioned the ending was Claire and Owen looking out in the distance, seeing the dinosaurs roaming freely among the mainland, with Claire trying to force a smile, knowing that her mission to save the dinosaurs was a success, but she barely can because of the peril that they may have brought to humanity. Now, as the movie concludes, there is a flaw in something that Eli Mills said. I actually added this as a goof to the IMDb page. Mills tells Claire that they're going to save 11 species of dinosaurs from the island. Later, after the expedition, he confirms that number to the auctioneer. Not counting the Mosasaurus, which escaped on its own, here's a list of all the dinosaurs we see alive and released at the end. They add up to 15 species. Seriously, the writers couldn't have done a thorough count as opposed to an estimate? The very last scene of this movie builds up exactly what I thought it was going to. A world where man and dinosaurs coexist, as Dr. Malcolm ominously states in another Senate meeting, "Welcome to Jurassic World." Admittedly, it was a poor choice to include the last line and the biggest line in the movie for that matter in the final trailer. I also didn't like how the marketing baited us with Malcolm saying, "Life finds a way." Yeah, he never utters those words in the movie, which is a shame because that line has everything to do with the movie. Though I guess they made up for it by making it the tagline. And yes, they did also give away the shot of the Mosasaurus swimming through the gigantic wave, which should have been saved for the audience to see for the first time in the theater. Though we did get a few other surprising shots, like the T-Rex breaking into a zoo and roaring at a lion, Blue wandering through the desert and stopping at a cliff overlooking a suburban neighborhood, and after the credits, some pteranodons perching on the Eiffel Tower in Las Vegas. Though my only quibble there is that there really wasn't much point in saving that shot for after the credits. It's just another shot of dinosaurs starting to interact with civilization. The only thing I can think of that it did different was showing how far the dinosaurs are migrating. I think what should have been in the after-credits scene instead was a baby dinosaur hatching from its egg, indicating that they're going to multiply and become a legitimate threat. So those are my complete thoughts on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and overall I thought it was an excellent addition to the franchise that took it a step in a new direction. Now you might think that I'm just phantom menacing, that I'm trying way too hard to come up with explanations for other people's criticisms, that I'm just letting fanboyism take me over, but I tell you, I am positive I'm not. As a Transformers fan, I was sure last year when Transformers The Last Knight came out that I was going to enjoy the heck out of it no matter what the critics said. But as I watched the movie, I knew that I was wrong, and I left severely disappointed. I had a vastly different experience with Fallen Kingdom. I really do think it's great, and I place it as third best in the Jurassic Park franchise. Set for release on June 11, 2021, Jurassic Park 6 is my most anticipated film of the foreseeable future. And yes, I know the movie is more commonly known right now as Jurassic World 3, but it's still part of one big franchise that we know by the name of its first and best installment. So until it gets its official title, I'm calling it Jurassic Park 6. Colin Trevorrow is returning as director for the movie, and he has said that out of the 3 films in the Jurassic World trilogy, the third is going to be the most like the original Jurassic Park. I'm a little disappointed that it's not going to be J.A. Bayona directing again, but seeing how well Trevorrow made Jurassic World feel like the original, he might be the man for the job. He's also announced that the Indoraptor is the last of the dino hybrids, which at this point in the series makes the most sense. And to be honest, I am looking forward to seeing all the focus being set on actual dinosaurs again. This also creates an excellent opportunity to see the return of Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler, and more screen time for Dr. Malcolm. Laura Dern, for one, has expressed interest in making a comeback, and I'd love to see a return for Lex and Tim, now in their late 30s. With Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard already confirmed for the next movie, I really hope that Claire and Owen finally move past their on and off relationship, which, seeing how they apparently adopt Macy, I think they will, unless the writers of Jurassic Park 3 take over, in which case Claire will be with some other random bloke. I do hope Macy isn't just a one-off character, because there could be more possibilities for what could be done with the idea of a human clone in the series. The young actress Isabella Sermon certainly deserves to be in another movie. For a kid with no other IMDb credits, she acted her rear off in Fallen Kingdom. I'd even say she dethrones J. Michael Finley and I Can Only Imagine for #1 breakthrough performance this year. One question Fallen Kingdom leaves in the air is what became of Henry Wu. The last time we saw him, he was dragged off screen after being knocked out or potentially dead when Franklin injected him with something. The actor B.D. Wong said in an interview that he thinks it's reductive to call Dr. Wu a villain. And he's probably right, he really isn't so much a villain as he is just an egotist, so I doubt that they would kill him off in such a manner. Based on that, I think Dr. Wu is alive, and he's going to get a moment in the next movie where he redeems himself. Now here's what has me possibly even more excited for the 6th movie than I was for Jurassic World and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. When I was 11 years old, I wrote a story called Shadows of the Past. I never finished it, but it was about a world where dinosaurs came back to life due to a random act of God that I didn't bother explaining very well. But the dinosaurs became so widespread across the earth that humans had to deal with them as part of life. The main focus was a family living in fear of Herrerasaurs roaming the woods near their home and other dinosaurs living elsewhere in their everyday lives. From the looks of things right now, I'm going to see that concept I came up with brought to the screen in Jurassic Park 6. And I have a feeling things are going to happen in that movie that I would have never been able to come up with when I was 11, and probably can't even think of now. In the words of Alan Grant, dinosaurs and man suddenly thrown back into the mix together. How can we possibly have the slightest idea what to expect? So what did you think of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom? Do you think the negative reviews are called for, or do you agree with me more? And what do you hope to see in Jurassic Park 6? Whatever it be, let me know in the comments. That's a wrap, thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like if you liked, subscribe for more. This is Pop Culture, I'm Alex Pop.